Hello friends and welcome. In this video we're going to display some text in our form. Alright, so crank up a project as I have it here. And into the toolbox I'm going to type the following here, LAB. That stands short for label. And now left click and then drag and drop over the form. This places a label control. We can set the text property of the label. So over here what I want to do is right click on the label and then click the properties of it. And then first clear out the text. Or if you want, let's leave it first and do this. Go to the font property instead and then change that. So click the three little dots, that button, scroll down and then choose 72 so it becomes big and easy to read and then click OK. Alright, and now pull this to the right so it's bigger to accommodate the label. So this is our label. That's it. It's just some text within a box. Now, with it, go back there for a second. And when we first launch the program, we don't want to see it saying label 1 or anything like that. So we're going to clear out the value of the text property. So you see where it says text right there, and then label 1. So highlight label 1 and then just delete it. And then hit enter. So the label is still present as an object, but the only difference is it's an empty. The property now called text is empty. It doesn't mean that it does not exist, it's just empty. Now, one more thing that we want to do is give the name that is a little more suggestive. So what I want you to do is scroll through the properties and then you see where it says design name and then label 1. So change that to MSG label like that. Now, the name property indicates the name used in code to identify the object. So in our case, I typed MSG, which is short for message, and then the word label to indicate the type of object that it is. And now further notice that L here is capitalized, and this is called camel casing. This is how many people name, for example, the things that they put in the code, the objects. So MSG and then label. So the purpose is clear, and the type of object that it is also clear. And now further notice this is on L and it's capitalized because it looks like the hump of a camel. It's called camel casing. And then hit enter, make sure everything takes. And if you select any of these properties, like for example margin, notice that on the bottom there's a description of the purpose of that property. Size, padding, minimum size, and so on. So now what we're going to do is left double click on the form. And this brings up our code behind C# file. Now there's a lot of stuff here, so we will focus on just a few things, not talk about all of them at once. So first of all, come up to the top of the file and notice that using system.windows.forms is intense blue and black, whereas some of these other things right above are kind of faded. So that means they're not necessary. So right click there and then see where it says organize using and then remove unnecessary usings. So right click, organize using, remove unnecessary usings. There you go. Now, what is the purpose of a using? Usings are needed because they allow us to bring features already created by other people into our own program. In other words, if we had to create a window from scratch, it would be much, much, much harder. In fact, nearly impossible for the average person. So, using system means access libraries of pre-made code so that our own coding can be much more efficient. If I take using system and I highlight it, and I hit that button right there that says comment add the selected lines. Now take a look. You see where it says event args and then space E? Event args now cannot be found. We don't need to know the purpose of event args for now, but for our purposes, it simply means that event args is stored in system. Now it cannot be found because using system has been disabled by being commented out. So to activate it, remove the comment. Same thing with the using system.windows.forms. So do this. Put your cursor there, put the slash marks to indicate now it's been a comment. Now it's a comment and not executable code anymore. Hover your mouse over form and says the type or namespace form cannot be found. In other words, form, that data type has been created by other people. Now we cannot find it anymore. So we need to have a reference to forms like that. And now it's found. Let's talk about curly braces. Look down below and notice that I have two curly braces. That's a curly brace, that's another curly brace. And they come as a pair. If you have only one curly brace, then your code will not work in general. Take a look. If I remove one of these braces and I wait a second, see there's a message that says curly brace expected. So they have to come as a pair like that. And usually if you enter one like that so that it points a certain way, then the corresponding one appears. So in other words, take a look. If I remove both of these, you see, and I type the one, the next one appears automatically. There you go. And I can do this on my keyboard, of course. Okay. Next stage, we have curly braces. Curly braces usually define a block of code, and blocks of code execute usually from top to bottom. In other words, whatever code we put in here will run in this sequence. It will begin on top when a form loads, and then execute from top to bottom in that sequence of steps. It's sequential and 100% logical. Now it says private void format underscore load. For our purposes, we simply have to be aware of the fact that this block of code will execute when the form loads. That's what matters to us. So what we're going to do is add comments to describe our code. All right, remember, we had an object called message label. Okay, is the name of our label, correct? Now, to access the text property of the label, we will type the following, msglabel.text. The dot is needed to access the text property of the label. It's called member access. So message label.text will allow us to set the text property like this. So I'm going to type msg, and then a list of possible things shows up that is called IntelliSense. And notice it's called a field. Again, there's a lot of very fine level detail. For our purposes, it doesn't matter too much. We simply have to type msglabel dot. And again, notice all of this has shown up over here, specifically the text property. And when I look at it in this tip, it says string. That's important to know because only certain kind of data works. So this is what I mean. Take a look. A string is a sequence of characters between double quotes. Keep that in mind. So we're going to say here msglabel like this, and then the text, and then on the right side of the equals is known as the assignment operator. It simply means take whatever is on the right side and save it to the text property. So we'll say here hello and then world, close with a semicolon. So let's add a couple more comments. This here is the assignment operator. Further, hello world like this is a string or a sequence of characters between double quotes. And then lastly, the semicolon terminates the statement like this. And a statement is basically a complete thought like that. Now I have something cool installed in Visual Studio that allows me to correct misspellings. So there you go. See? Pretty cool feature. All right, remember, this is the code that will run when the form loads and displays the message. So let's run it now. Click Start. And it does not matter whether you are within form1.cs or form1.cs design view. Take a look. Click Start. And it says Hello World and it's been displayed to the screen. Close that. Close this. There you go. That's it. So this is our basic code. I hope you've learned something of value in this lesson. Thank you so much for watching, friends, and I will see you in the next video.